Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Charlotte and I would love if you could subscribe to my channel. In my last video, which was a weekend vlog, I'll link that here for you to check out, I talk about how I was doing some cleaning, some spring cleaning, because the weather is now beautiful here. And while I was doing this cleaning, I came across so many flashcards. I kid you not, guys, I found flashcards from middle school, high school, and college. So it was a lot. It was so many flashcards. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about how I use flashcards to study and how they can be a really great tool, especially now with finals coming up for a lot of people. Overall, they really make studying a lot easier. I'm going to talk about 3 different methods to utilize flashcards. The first one I'm going to talk about is the traditional paper way that you probably think of with like a 3x5 card. The second method I'm going to talk about is the folding a paper in half and using that strategy. And then lastly, I'm going to go over digital flashcards and how I have been using my iPad. First up, we're going to talk about traditional paper flashcards. So many cards, guys. I have so many of these and I feel bad because I've probably killed so many trees, but they have helped, trust me. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about how I use them. So first off, you can really make these with anything. You don't need actual index cards from the store. You can use any paper and just cut like little squares. I've done some with my Spanish cards. Sometimes if I'm doing a subject such as Spanish, as you can see here, it's just a word with a definition on the back. So I really don't want to use that many cards for each unit. So I put 2 words on each card and then I put the definition on the back. So this was freír and tapar, which is to fry and to cover. You could use it the traditional way where you write a question or a term on one side and then on the other side you put the definition or the answer. That's how a lot of people use it. That's how I usually use the questions. This can be especially helpful if you have a professor or a teacher who gives you a study guide with questions. For my anatomy and physiology class, my professor gave us a list of study guide questions before each test and actually recommended we make flashcards with them, and that is exactly what I did. Here's one of the questions from our neuro unit. What structures comprise the basal nuclei? So she gave us this question on our guide and it was question 21. So this is a really good way of organizing your cards. You can number them, you can color code them by unit, whatever works best for you. So I put the question that she gave us and then the number of the question. This was helpful when reviewing and going over the study guide with friends and before the test. It was just really helpful for that and keeping everything organized. So then on the back, you can see I have the answer to the question. And what I like to do is underline or break it down into smaller chunks so it's just not a card filled with words, because that can get really overwhelming when you're studying. So just like if you were to do any kind of study guide or any kind of note-taking method, it's just helpful to have the definition or a word and then break things down into smaller subsections to keep things more structured and easier to take in when you're studying. That way you're not trying to cram too much information all at once. So the way that I like to use these flashcards is obviously quizzing myself, but what you can do is mix them all up. If you had a study guide like I did for anatomy and physiology, instead of doing them in order, I would actually mix them up and do them in random order. That way I didn't have too many questions about the same subject all at the beginning. And that way it really got me to learn them because I wasn't going in a particular order and it wasn't just like muscle memory for my brain. Quizzing yourself can be really helpful. It can also be helpful to have a friend or a family member quiz you. In high school, I used to sometimes have my brother quiz me, which he did not appreciate, but it happened. You can also use a technique where you read the definition and then do the term. This is especially helpful for like learning a language. That way you're not just seeing like Spanish to English, for example. You can also see English to Spanish, because sometimes on tests your professor or teacher can give you both, like a Spanish word and then say give me the English translation, or an English word and then say give me the Spanish translation. So I found it really helpful when I was studying languages to study them both ways, to study with the term first or to study by looking at the definition and then saying the term. A second method of flashcard studying is the paper fold in half method. So this works especially well if you don't have cards or don't want to go through the process of making cards or cutting them out. And I actually used this for my pharmacology final recently. It's really helpful if you want to keep everything in one place and you find yourself sometimes losing cards. This can be a better method for you. So what I did, I'm just going to show you one page. I folded the paper in half, so this is where the crease is if you can't tell. And I wrote a term on one side and then the definition and other details on the other half of the page. So then when I was studying, I would fold the page in half. Let me show you. I would fold it in half like this, and ignore that because that's the next page. But I would fold it in half like this, and I would say, okay, what is the AED treatment algorithm? And then I would think in my head, say it out loud, and then I would check myself by unfolding the paper and seeing if I was correct. That was really helpful for me. And then I used another color to make the lines between questions. This was helpful in separating the details here with which question they went to or term, because otherwise it can just be a lot of words on this page. This was very helpful in keeping all of my information together. I actually decided to try using this for this semester because I had moved home and didn't have flashcards with me, and because we really aren't supposed to be going to the store, I wasn't able to buy any, and I just wanted to use resources that I already had rather than getting new ones and wasting more paper. And my third method of using flashcards is online. The first one that I'm sure all of you have probably heard about is Quizlet. And I actually love Quizlet. I think it is very helpful and easier to study because they have not only the flashcard method where you can look at a flashcard and flip it over like you would a paper flashcard, but they have different games and there are ways to test yourself and quiz yourself. So I recently purchased an iPad, so I've been using Quizlet on my iPad. You can make your own flashcards, or you can actually, what I like about Quizlet is you can find sets that other people have done on the same topic. This can be helpful if you want to see other details that someone may have included on their flashcards that you didn't. The only thing that I have to say is don't use sets that other people have made and rely solely on those. You can use them to compare and find details that you may have missed or left out, but you don't know the accuracy of someone else's note cards on Quizlet. And the actual act of making the flashcards is really helpful for studying on its own. As you're making your flashcards, you're actively thinking about the information, you're processing the information, and you're writing it down, which all in one is just a really good way of studying that right off the bat. In your brain, you will start to associate the information together, you'll start to comprehend it, and you'll just feel more prepared to study because you've made these cards and you've already seen the information all in one place. Quizlet is a free app. If you want to add more color and italics or pictures to your cards, there is a Quizlet Plus subscription. I personally just use the free one and I find it still extremely helpful. Another app that I use is called Anki. My boyfriend actually recommended this app to me. He was a pre-med student and he was studying for the MCAT. He would use this app consistently and it helped him study and retain information better. So I'm going to show you that app here. It's called Anki. This app is a little bit more on the expensive side. Anki is, I believe, $20 on the App Store, and it's a one-time fee, so you're not paying a subscription for it. It's just that one charge to get the app on all of your devices. So you can download it on your iPad, your phone, your computer, anything. You can also use a web browser. What I really love about Anki is they have made it and designed it with a specific algorithm in mind, and that algorithm is what is best for your studying and what is going to help you retain the information the best. You have decks and you get a certain number of new cards shown to you each day. The app won't let you do all your cards at once. So the way I have it set is I have 50 new cards every day. So if my deck has a total of 400 cards, I would do 50 the first day, and then the next day I would do 50, but also do the 50 from the previous day to review. But what they do is they bring your cards back for you to study when the algorithm has decided that you need to see it again in order to retain it. So you're not necessarily seeing the cards every day, but if you start studying, 2 or 3 weeks in advance, you will get those cards the first day, and then maybe the third day, and then the 10th day, and it just shows it to you based on when you're going to learn best. So when you're studying, you will get a card. So this is just a sample deck from one of my farm tests, as I have been showing you. This was from the beginning of the year. You get one card and then you think about it. Okay, do I know this? You say what you know about it and then you tap it and it shows you the definition. And then you get to decide how well you think you answered it. So if it was easy for you to answer, you can just hit easy and it will show it to you again in 3 days. Or if you got it, but you just want to be a little bit more comfortable with it, you hit good and then it will show it to you again in that study session 10 minutes later. And if it was really hard for you, you can hit again and it will show it to you much more rapidly in a 1 minute time frame. This kind of helps you study the things that are really hard for you more often, but then if you have things that are on the easier side and you really have down, it's not going to keep showing those to you and taking up your time from studying the harder things. I highly suggest checking out this app on the App Store and just reading like the description about it, or going online on their web browser and seeing how it works. You can also use this alongside Quizlet and bring your Quizlet decks into Anki. I don't think there really are any other additional ways to use flashcards. If you know of any, let me know, because I am a flashcard fanatic. I am such a nerd, guys. It's okay. I've accepted it. Flashcards are really good because you can bring them with you and study them in quick time that you have. Like if you don't have a super long gap of time to study, you can take out your flashcards, flip through a couple. So you're making use of your free time to study. That's especially helpful if you have the digital apps like Quizlet or Anki. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and now you know a little bit more about the crazy and amazing world that is flashcards. I hope that these methods will be helpful for you in studying for finals or tests going forward. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and then subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. I'm posting videos Wednesdays and Saturdays now, so a lot more content is coming in the future, and if you subscribe, you won't miss out on any of those. I wish you guys luck as your classes are wrapping up, and I hope finals and everything go okay. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you on Wednesday in my next video. Bye, everybody.